what role does height play in attracting men and women, for men and women?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think that let's get men out of the way. Let's get the, since
Just like the blue-pilled cuck that you are, let's get men out of the way and get onto women.
Yeah.
We're in good company.
Yeah. No. This is one of the things that I say where people are like, he's black-pilled. And it's like, okay, I'm so upset that's the direction.
If you can manage to thread the needle between all of the pills at once,
yes.
If you can be bigoted and cucked in the same podcast, that means that you're doing something right.
Okay. Sure.
And you've managed to do both so far. So well
yeah. What a disaster. That's yeah. So I'm upset as long as
everyone's upset with
as
you.
long as extremists on both sides and reasonable people. Height. Actually, I don't think I'm going to say anything particularly surprising. Every inch if you're a shorter guy, every inch that you add, and this is based on a couple of different data sets. I'm not just looking at one study here. Looking at things like just women's stated preferences, women in speed dating studies, women in dating app swiping, right? Dating app filters, as well as response to, online ads for, like I'm single, that kind of thing. So there's a bunch of different evidence that women like a very tall man who is not too very tall, right? So if you graphed women's height preferences, it would look kind of like a candy cane, right? Where it's like, if you're very short, then adding a few inches really increases your attractiveness. Like the difference between being 5'4" and 5'8", that's a big deal, right? That's going from a bit of a problem to actually probably not that much of a problem. Then it starts to taper off around 6'1", right? So it's like you're getting every inch is sick, and then around 6'1" it starts to taper off, which is hilarious because the average height of American men, I think it's about 5'9", and on dating apps I think it's about 6'1". I'll have to double check that, which is just ridiculous. Height inflation is such a disaster.
Yeah.
I'm considering getting leg extensions just because of that.
Heightflation and hoflation, right. the two maladies of 2024.
Yeah. So once you get to around 6'1", you start to get kind of diminishing returns per inch, and that seems to settle down around 6'3". 6'3" to 6'5", there seems to be about, even, it doesn't seem like being, maybe 6'5" is better, maybe it's not, but it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal whether you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Then around 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", that's when it's like, okay, this is definitely not optimal, right? This is not ideal. But again, it's like a candy cane. So it comes down, but you're still better off being like basketball player tall than being 5'10", right? And it's interesting because this data converges with a very funny anecdotal experience. I know one of the only men ever to lie about his height on a dating app to make himself shorter. He's 6'6", and he claims that he's 6'5" because he's like 6'6", just scares him away.
Well, to be honest, like looking up, if you're a 5'6" chick, like what do you know about anything over 6 feet tall? You can't even reach 6 feet tall. Like you don't know what's up there.
Yeah.
You can't get up there.
Well, one thing that is interesting though is that it's not. So a lot of people think, and this is the intuition, is like they want a man who's taller than themselves, and it's like they want a man who's taller than average. So it's not that they're looking up and saying, "Oh, that's a lot taller than me." It's that they're looking at you and looking at the guys around you, and they're like, "Oh, he's the tallest one." That's
all
nice.
of my fucking friends in Austin are tall. It's super annoying.
Yeah.
Super duper.
Well, you're
5'10".
quite tall. You're 5'10".
5'10".
So it's a little taller than average.
Yeah. So 5'10" and a half, I think, technically, if I was posting it on a Black Pill forum. Yeah. But all of my friends, my housemate's 6'4". Yeah. Another one of my friends is 6'4". Another one of my friends is 6'2". So
if I ever have to use a dating app, I'm 6'4", and I'm showing up in stilts.
Fuck it. All right. So that's for men, height. Yeah. I saw, and I've cited this a bunch, that the average preference and difference between men for women is 21 centimeters taller, and women for men is 16 centimeters shorter. Does this hold? Is this similar to any of the stuff you know?
That's it. So that sounds about right.
Got it right, baby. Yeah. Fucking science for the win.
Yeah, I believe that was actually a speed dating study that you're referencing, if you're talking about the same one, where it was like what height was optimal, and they interpret it as a ratio, right? Where men prefer somewhat shorter and women prefer significantly taller. Men's preferences are kind of more interesting than women's, but they're also so much slighter that it's almost not worth talking about them, but we can. It seems to be that men prefer women who are about average height, or maybe a moderate amount shorter than themselves. It's kind of unclear why. And I think that a combination of factors it's a slight preference, but I would say that a combination of factors make it such that tall women, and I say this as someone who's dating a absolutely lovely, very beautiful, but also very tall woman. Tall women, I think, have it hardest just on the mating market from a height perspective.
Why I called it the tall girl problem.
Yeah, I heard you say that. Was that to Candace, actually?
Said it. I shill that theory. I've only come up with 2 cool names in all of evolutionary psychology. Yeah. Tall girl problem and male sedation hypothesis. But I'm shit at science, great at memeing. Yeah. So I played toward my strengths.
I'll have to talk to you afterwards and tell you some of the theories that I'm working on testing. And
tall girl problem's about socioeconomics, not about height.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it in that context. But it works in terms of height because, well, 2 things happen, right? One is that, and it might be similar to the socioeconomic situation. Although one thing that's interesting, right, and it's worth kind of as a supplement to the modeling work. So Candace's modeling work, obviously a super cool study, very interesting. But then it's like, well, richer women are more married and less divorced. More educated women are more married and less divorced than less educated. And so it's like this whole kind of meme of like, oh, careful ladies, the richer you get, the harder it's going to be for you to date. It's like, okay, theory, fine. Modeling, fine. Practice, they're doing better than the rest of the women.
I would be very interested to look at that longitudinally over the next 10 years.
I think it's going to get even better for them. And the reason I think that is because what we're seeing in Europe is that women are becoming more and more willing to date hypogamously. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing much more of these patterns where women who are super educated are like, you know what? Sexy plumber, sexy firefighter, let's have it.
Have you looked at the relationship outcomes for those relationships? Longevity, satisfaction?
Well, this is something we can talk about as well. I mean, in the West, we see that there's these relationships where the women make more, maybe are more likely to have issues, but there's a real question of like, is that just, I mean, this would be my first gut reaction, is it's like, well, they feel they can leave. Right.
Well, I mean, look, so this is, I love
those are the 2 ideas, right? It's preferences or they feel they can leave.
So I love the tall girl problem. I think that it explains an awful lot and the reason that I came up with it originally was I wanted to explain to educated and or wealthy women that were struggling to date that they weren't personally cursed, that their preference on average for men that are as wealthy or more and as educated or more means that it amounts to a diminishing return. Yep. If you're standing atop your own hierarchy, it's very difficult to look at above and across the next one, especially when that one is slowly kind of sipping and sipping and sipping.
Yeah, because men are becoming less educated.
Precisely correct. Yeah. In other news, this episode is brought to you by Element. Stop having coffee first thing in the morning. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't even active for the first 90 minutes of the day, but your adrenal system is, and salt acts on your adrenal system. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium that helps to curb cravings, regulate your appetite, and improve your brain function. There's a reason that I continue harping on about Element. It's a product I've used for over 3 years. Every single morning that I wake up, whether I'm on the road or at home, I start my day by having one of these in water because it really does help. It tastes phenomenal. It's got no sugar in it, no gluten, no fillers, no other artificial junk or BS, and it really makes me feel fantastic. Best of all, there's a no BS, no questions asked refund policy with an unlimited duration, so you can buy it right now, completely risk-free, and if you do not like it for any reason, they will give you your money back, and you don't even need to return the box. That's how confident they are that you'll love it. Right now, you can get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, you will love the full-length episode, which you can watch right here. Go on. Press it.